When you think of medieval prostitutes, what do you picture? Dark alleyways, shadowy taverns, a shameful secret whispered but never spoken aloud. What if I told you the truth was stranger? Some were outcasts. Some were businesswomen. Some were spies, wielding information like a weapon. They paid taxes, owned property, built wealth. And in certain towns, they held power most women could only dream of. This is not the story of helpless women forced into sin. This is the story of how some became pillars of their communities, while others were buried in shame and silence. This is hidden by time. In medieval Europe, prostitution wasn't always illegal. In fact, sometimes it was encouraged. Why? Because the church believed it was a lesser evil. Better, they argued, that men visit a brothel than break apart marriages or prey on virgins. So towns across Europe created official red light districts. In Regensburg, Germany, in the 14th century, the city built a designated area called the Frauenhaus, literally, the women's house. In Florence, prostitutes were registered with the state and confined to certain streets. Even in London's Suffolk, brothels operated legally under the authority of the Bishop of Winchester. The women became known as the Bishop's geese. Women who worked there had rights, others didn't. They could bring cases to court. They could own property. And some even retired with modest savings. It wasn't glamorous, but it was visible. Prostitution, for a time, lived in the open. Make no mistake, this was a business. Brothels were regulated, inspected, and taxed. Some were even owned by the city itself. Women paid taxes on their earnings, just like merchants. In 14th century Augsburg, city records show prostitutes were charged fees for licenses. Clothing laws mark them out. In Italy, prostitutes were often forced to wear yellow veils or striped garments so everyone knew their trade. In England, a woman could be fined if she dressed above her station and appeared like a respectable wife. And yet, many built real wealth. Some left behind wills, passing on property and goods. Others became landladies of taverns, turning their work into something resembling independence. And in some places, women formed loose guilds or networks, fixing prices and protecting each other. In a society where most women were silenced, these women carved out their own economic space. But power was never absolute. Not all clients were strangers. Some became lovers, patrons, even protectors. Others tried to control. Pimps existed, often men who lived off a woman's earnings. Abuse was common, with women sometimes beaten by clients or authorities alike. And health risks loomed. Medieval medicine had little understanding of sexually transmitted diseases. Still, many women found ways to assert control. They set their own hours, chose their own clients, kept their own money. The records of Paris in the 14th century show women suing clients who refused to pay. In Venice, a prostitute could file a complaint if beaten or cheated. Some even became confidants of powerful men, trading not just their bodies, but information. Because in a world where secrets were currency, the woman in the bed sometimes held more power than the man beside her. In some places, prostitutes weren't just tolerated, they thrived. Take Southwark, across the Thames from London. Brothels line the riverbank, operating under license from the church itself. Here, women ran taverns, controlled information, and became part of the local economy. Foreign travellers wrote of Southwark's bawdy houses as places not only of pleasure, but of politics. Whispers passed in candlelight, deals struck in back rooms, and the hypocrisy ran deep. Because while the church condemned sin in sermons, bishops profited from the trade. The Bishop of Winchester personally leased out brothels, turning vice into revenue. It was said the women under his jurisdiction were branded as his geese, property that laid golden eggs. The arrangement was dangerous, but for a time, it gave these women a kind of influence no one expected. But it couldn't last. By the late Middle Ages, the tide turned. The Black Death, between 1347 and 1351, fueled fears that brothels spread disease. The Reformation hardened religious attitudes, branding prostitutes as corrupt beyond salvation. One by one, cities began to outlaw the trade. In Nuremberg, in the 1470s, brothels were closed by civic decree. In Venice, laws expelled prostitutes from central districts. In England, Henry VIII banned licensed brothels in 1546. Those who once paid taxes now paid with their freedom. Some were jailed, others branded, many driven underground. And just like that, women who had once been semi-respected citizens became outcasts again. Ask most people today about medieval prostitutes, and one story comes to mind. Shame, silence, sin. But the truth is more complex. They were mothers, businesswomen, landlords, survivors. Some were poor and desperate. Others were wealthy and shrewd. Some endured violence. Others wielded power. The records, tax rolls, court cases, wills tell us they existed in plain sight, and that their story wasn't just one of exploitation, but of resilience. History buried them beneath layers of morality, but if you peel it back, their voices still echo. So next time you hear the word prostitute in a medieval context, don't just think of alleyways and shame. Think of women who negotiated their own survival, who fought for payment, who built lives in the cracks of a world stacked against them. Sometimes the people in the shadows were the ones holding the whole place together. This was hidden by time. If you found this story intriguing, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out the other forgotten stories we've uncovered. Because history's darkest corners are often where the truth hides.